the darkness of the couple that's received a very difficult and challenging prenatal diagnosis and is being tempted, even pressured to have an abortion. Maybe it's the darkness of the woman who has had the abortion and is quickly finding out that the promise of relief from a crisis situation is indeed an empty promise. But whatever that darkness is, we here today, through 40 Days for Life, enter into that darkness, bearing the light of Christ as a sign of His hope and of His mercy. A moment ago I mentioned Dan Miller in Milwaukee. A couple of summers ago, Dan and I were at a local film studio in Madison, and we were doing some filming for a short pro-life film that we were recording. We were taking a break near the end of the day, and Dan's phone rang, and Dan nervously said something about, well, depending on who's calling, I might be missing the birth that I'm supposed to attend. And I thought to myself, my goodness, that's a curious comment if I ever did hear one. I knew Dan's wife was not expecting. Dan, why in the world are you attending a birth? Dan shared with me how a few months earlier at 40 Days for Life, he had met a couple on the sidewalk in front of the abortion facility. At 20 weeks, their baby boy had been diagnosed with trisomy 18, a very serious genetic anomaly. And their doctors told them to get an abortion to spare this child a short life filled with misery and suffering. They went and got a second opinion. They were told to get an abortion. They went for a third opinion. They were told to get an abortion. By the time they met Dan on the sidewalk that March day, they were desperate. They told Dan, we don't have any family around here. We don't have anybody that we can lean on. And Dan looked at them and he said, we're your family now. And he walked them over to the Pregnancy Help Center, where they found a fourth opinion. And they found doctors and volunteers and counselors and donors who were willing to stand with them and help them choose life for their baby. And as a result, that's what they did. They chose life. Because of this trisomy 18, it was very unclear how long baby Eric would live. And so this couple invited Dan to be present as he came into the world so that he would get to meet this child whose life he had saved. In fact, it was so unclear how long baby Eric would live that Dan himself baptized the baby with his own hands right there in the hospital. When baby Eric died after just 6 hours and 14 minutes outside the womb, it was Dan who brought together the pro-life community of Milwaukee to fund a funeral and burial for this child. And it was Dan who rallied the pro-life community of southeastern Wisconsin to attend this funeral that commemorated the life of a precious child of God who I'm convinced has made a bigger impact on our world in just 6 hours than many people will in 80 or 100 years.